Hey, Trevor Security here from SpineWise, and if you're suffering with migraines and you get them with your period, maybe it's before, maybe it's after, whether it's slightly before or after can actually have a lot to do or tell us a lot about what it is you're actually suffering with and why you're suffering with it. So let me explain a little bit too, because when we look at migraines, everyone relates them to hormones and they say it's this, it's that, it's estrogen, progesterone, whatever. But the reality is whether you get it right before your period or right after your period is really, really important. So if we look at a little simple graph here and we go from period to ovulation to period, etc., where it falls in with that can tell us a lot about what's actually happening with you. So if you're someone who gets your migraines here right before your period, whether it's a couple of hours or a day before your period, it means something completely different than if you're someone who gets a migraine after your period. So if this is number one here, or if you're straight after your period or whilst you have your period, then that's something different again. So this one right before here, this is something that we usually see with hormonal irregularities. So either a high estrogen or a low progesterone, and these really create havoc with people right before they get their period. And these people will often also get things such as period pain. They may get anxiety or emotional disorders as part of their PMS as well. If you're right on the other side of it, then this is often due to a substance being produced called prostaglandin 2. So prostaglandin 2 is an inflammatory chemical, and there was a research done back in 2013 where they took a heap of people and who were subjected to migraines and actually injected them with prostaglandin 2. And the interesting thing with that is that just over 70% of those people would suffer a migraine as a result. With only 2 of those having a delayed migraine, almost all of them got migraines almost instantly that they were injected with the prostaglandin. So there's a direct correlation between prostaglandin 2 and migraine patterns as well. So this is why we need to be careful about whether you're getting your migraines before or after, because you may be blaming the wrong guy. It may not be your hormones at all, it may actually be a prostaglandin problem. So let me explain what that means. So if we're talking about hormones, and we're pre-period, then really what we're talking about is our balance between estrogen and progesterone, and this is really a stress-related issue. So our HP axis, we've spoken a lot about that already. You can watch the whole of the videos I've done on that topic. And for these people, liver support is usually quite helpful for them. So we want to support their stress patterns, support their progesterone. We know that stress hormones tend to drive estrogen and deplete progesterone somewhat, so that alters that. So we want to get the stress down, and we really want to support their liver. So this is quite important for them, simply because we want to be able to clear out those hormones and produce them in a healthy, functional manner. If you're getting your migraines post-period, so this is the prostaglandin 2 that we're talking about. Let me show you a little pathway which is important with this. That is, if we look at our essential fatty acids, these are unsaturated fats. We've got our omega-6s from plants, we've got our omega-6s from animals, and then we've got our omega-3s, which we commonly see things like flaxseed oil, fish oil, these type of things. What we're talking about here is the balance between the 3 of them. And the reason this balance is so important is all because of these things down the bottom here, which we call prostaglandins. So prostaglandin 1 and prostaglandin 3 are anti-inflammatory. They help control inflammation in the system. Prostaglandin 2 is a very inflammatory substance, and it leads to our markers that regulate our platelet count and blood coagulability, those type of things, tough word to get out there. So it's really, really important for us as well. It's also important in labour for women who have been induced, things like that. Prostaglandin is often a substance they use as a gel to try and initiate labour as well. So the reason I go through this and the reason this is so important is that when we look at this pathway here, this is the pathway here which is important for us, because this is the one that leads to prostaglandin 2 production, which is the one that we're actually talking about at the moment here. So when we start talking about this, then we need to look at the basics of that. And really there's a pathway that goes from this area here, which is our plant-based omega-6s, into our animal-based omega-6s. And this really is stimulated by 2 things. So one is a substance called insulin, and the other is trans fatty acids. They're 2 big things that really make a big difference and fire that pathway off. So when those are elevated, we tend to shut down this pathway and we enhance this pathway, so we end up with less prostaglandin 1, more prostaglandin 2, and that creates problems for not just us in terms of our migraines potentially, but also can create problems for us cardiovascular perspective, inflammatory perspective. There are a lot of different things that are associated with that. So if we're getting our migraines post-period, this is really what we're talking about. And in our post-period migraines, the way we really want to regulate this prostaglandins is to try and control our insulin levels, so get our blood sugars under control, which also means getting our stress levels under control, of course, reducing the trans fats, those heavy fried fats in our diet, and our homogenized oils. Turmeric is one substance which is known to actually shut down this pathway here. It works really, really well for that. And the other thing that we want to look at too is ginger. Ginger can open up this pathway here and help push prostaglandin out. Magnesium very similarly as well. So there's a few different things you can try to control that. And if you remember back to the videos we did on that I put together for you on cardiovascular functions, very similar discussion because it's similar pathways that we're talking about in this regard. So there's a few things we can try. So if we're pre-period, we want to get our estrogen progesterone levels balanced, we want to get our stress levels under control, and liver support. So things like St. John's wort, St. Mary's thistle, these type of things are really good for that methylation support in this area. And then if we're looking at post-period, so once you've got your period, if you're getting your migraines there, now we're talking about controlling insulin, which again comes back to stress as well, our trans fats. Herbs such as turmeric and ginger, the food ginger as well is just as effective, and substances such as magnesium as well, which can also help those in there as well. So anyway guys, that's a quick introduction into what it means to be getting hormonal migraines, because they aren't necessarily always hormonal in nature. The prostaglandin ones, our post ones, often the ones without auras as well, so you don't even often realize that they are coming about. So it's a quite simple, quick introduction to it. If you have any questions at all, just post them up. Otherwise, if you have any questions, if you are suffering with this and you just want some advice, no matter where you are in the world, just send me a message. Always happy to help out in any way, shape or form that I can. Otherwise, guys, for me, I'm Trevor Spinewise, and I'll catch you in the next vid. Bye for now.